Kevin
freaking
Durant.
Suck it, Stephen A.
PHNX Suns post-game show. The Phoenix Suns are now 6-1 on the season after taking down the Philadelphia 76ers 118-116. Thanks to the great Kevin Wayne Durant. Hit that thumbs up button for KD. And also, I hope you guys are ready for some sexy sacks. This one goes out to the old head, Mr. Kevin Durant. You couldn't hang?
It's late. He's 8-15 games. Not a lot of energy left for
it. Katie makes looking 36 look like 26 out there
and
these days.
I make 40 look like 105. So you got that going for us.
Welcome in, everybody, to the PHNX Suns post-game show presented by Bet365. Download the Bet365 app. Use that code PHNX365 when you sign up. Choose your offer and find out why, whatever the moment. It's never ordinary at Bet365. I'm Lindsay. That's Steven. That's Eric. I'm Lindsay. That's Eric. That's Steven. That's us. Well, I was looking at you guys.
We do look similar, so yeah.
It's because our camera's reversed.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, people are like, are you guys twins?
Sorry. And that one is Espo on the end, in case you forgot.
I don't even know what to say.
I was looking at the TV and they're flipped, so whatever. Anyway, you guys know the deal. Kevin Durant showed up big in this one. It was looking a little bit scary for a minute there. And KD said, I got this. You can count on me. Let me get you a win.
He said, remember who I am and put some respect on my name. All right. That was vintage Kevin Wayne Durant.
Yes.
He took over. And again, to echo what Gerald Bourguet tweets on the regular, that is why you trade for Kevin Durant at whatever the cost is, because those moments are why you need a superstar.
I mean, I talked about it last week on the timeline. He is one of the clutchest players that we've ever seen. Time on task is he just breathes it at this point. And I just don't want people to get bored with his greatness. He's just so consistent and so consistently shows up. You can kind of say, okay, if it's close, we know he's going to do this. And then you just kind of going about your night. Don't take this greatness for granted, because most teams don't have it in the space that the Suns do, and everyone doesn't have a Kevin Durant on their team. Mm-hmm. And to that point, last week, I think he was third or maybe fourth in clutch points scored. I can't wait to look at it tomorrow morning, because I think at this point, he's probably either second or in the lead on the best efficiency, on the highest volume of shots in that context of the game, too. He is different. Like, this is not normal.
I mean, he's one of, if not the greatest scorers the game has ever seen, and he's going to continue to do it until he literally can't walk anymore. He decides that he doesn't want to do it anymore, and he's done what he's been doing this entire season, and that's carry this team. He's been the man. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. I know Book has had some good games. Kevin Durant has been there, and he's been consistent as well. 35 points tonight, 6 assists, and 4 rebounds as well. He just does it all, and like you said, Steven, he does it in the most timely manner, and you just got to sit back and appreciate that this guy plays for the Phoenix Suns. I mean, they won this game by 2 points. This was a game where they would have lost last year. How many times have we said that so far? And a game they would have lost respectfully if you don't have Kevin Durant on your team. Yep. If you have McHale and you have Cam Johnson and all your draft picks, you're losing this game, because this is a game where greatness took over.
Stephen A., can you meet me over at my camera just for a second? Do me a favor. Continue to talk your crap at Kevin Durant. because it is bringing the best out of him, not only in quotes with people, but on the court right now. And I don't care what you want to say, because it's fueling his fire right now. So you can shut up and talk all you want. It's making him even greater. You're making his powers even greater. And I love it. I love when a guy can shut up somebody doing what he does best.
Yep. What did KD say to Stephen A tonight, Espo? Shut up and talk.
Shut up and talk. Shut up and talk. I mean, he also said, "You're still a giant clown." I mean, that was what tonight said as well.
That too. It was just a really fun final few minutes and moments of this game. Because for a minute there, I'm not gonna lie, I kind of thought we were done for. I thought this was just the one game that the Suns were gonna drop and we'd start all over. But again, KD said, I don't really feel like doing that. Instead, I'm going to win us this game.
Yeah, by all statistical numbers, the Suns, probably shouldn't have won this game. And by the eye test as well, I mean, the 76ers are playing out of their minds. I mean, Gershon Yabusele was playing like he saw LeBron in the Olympics again. Like, he was just going off. And this was a team that, if you came by and stopped by our pregame show, which, by the way, if you don't know, we do pregame shows right here on YouTube, exclusively on YouTube for every single game. I mentioned the 76ers only win this season. They launched 42 threes. They lost 46 in a loss against the Grizzlies, but in all their losses combined, they averaged 33.5. And they were one of, if not the worst, three-point percentage shooting teams in the entire NBA. And they were on fire today, Steven. And that feels like one of those games where sometimes you throw your hands up and you just say, nobody expected this coming in, but you know what? A loss is a loss. You can't control it. And the Suns still found a way to scrap into it and win.
I think some of that is a hat tip to the Suns and their defense. We can't talk about the Suns' defense having taken the right steps without giving them credit for forcing the team to play the way that they desire for them to. They weren't necessarily saying you take all the threes that you want, but they kept them in scenarios where they had them taking a lot of shots from deep, late in the clock, that wasn't Paul George and that wasn't Tyrese Maxey. Now, credit to Gershon Yabusele, which, to Lindsay's point, one of the funnest names to say.
It's
if
such
you
a
haven't
great
said
name.
it, just say it a couple times. You're going to realize what we're speaking to. But to Eric's point, Yabusele comes in and he's playing just like he did in the Olympics this past summer, with that time on task from a role player's position, knocking down three after three after three. You would much rather err on him making those shots when they needed, especially, which he did not, versus Tyrese Maxey or Paul George taking those shots. So them getting up that volume of attempts is good for them in terms of what they may be trying to replicate, but that's exactly what the Suns wanted.
Yeah, I mean, but you look at it, right, and it took a 14-4 run in the final 4 minutes to turn this around, and Kevin Durant was unbelievable on the offensive end.
Yep.
But the defense showed up as well, which it hadn't through most of the game. And in the clutch, they were able to stop Philly in a lot of areas. Especially, they would go down the lane, and the Suns stopped them on multiple occasions. There was one play that Bradley Beal was fantastic and forced a bad shot. Defense deserves a lot of credit down that stretch as well, because they wouldn't have been in a position to get back in this without those stops.
Yep.
Also, I want to give a shout out to, I know it was Grayson Allen. I can't remember. It's escaping me right now. Who else was down there to help secure that fight? Was it Nurkic?
Yeah.
That
Nurkic.
Final rebound that actually sealed the deal.
Yep.
We'd be remiss if we didn't shout those two guys out for their efforts late in this one as well.
And it wasn't just that, like, that play was perfect that they both had a helping hand in it, Nurkic and then Grayson tipping it out. But both of those players had multiple moments of multiple efforts, especially defensively. Like you said, you can't make a comeback like that by just putting the ball in a basket when you're at a deficit. You have to tandemize your defense with your offense. That's what they saw a whole lot of between those two in particular.
And you especially can't rely on your offense when your second best player in Devin Booker is 3 for 18 on the night.
Well, we will get.
Let's
I
not jump
promise you we'll
ahead.
get there. But
This isn't a point about Booker. It's a point about everybody else. When you're in a situation like that where the shots aren't falling from your star in that way, everybody has to do all the little things right, especially when your back's against the wall and you're down at home late in the fourth. Somebody in the chat said it was a 92% win probability for the 76ers.
Yep.
You need those hustle plays. You need that extra effort on defense just to give yourself a shot on nights like tonight.
yeah.
Yeah, but I don't want to jump into the negative just yet. We will talk about that a little bit later in the show. All things could lead back to Kevin Durant, though, when it comes to this win and his efforts down the stretch. And that is why he is going to be our big, bright, shiny star presented by
Shining Star.
Gila River Resorts and Casinos. You do you at Gila River Resorts and Casinos. Visit playatgila.com for more details. As Eric mentioned earlier in the show, KD finished with 35 points tonight, 6 assists, 4 rebounds, 15 of those points coming in the fourth quarter alone. Shout out to you, KD, for grabbing yet another big, bright, shiny star. I'm sure many more will come this season, but we also have some super chats about him as well. Amzobi sent us one and said, he's Kevin Durant, and then put a goat emoji at the end of it.
That's a good point.
This is true. Mark R. also sent us one, and they said, KD 39 minutes. When is this team going to step up so he cannot average the most minutes in the NBA? Great W, but I don't want him tired come playoffs. We talked about this on Saturday, and I don't remember who it was in the chat that brought it up, but it's the way in which those 39 minutes are being played this year, his usage rate and all that type of stuff. It's not as much of a load as we were asking of him last year, which is shout out to Coach Bud for recognizing that. And at the very least, taking a little bit of that off of KD's shoulders, even though the minutes are still high.
Yeah. Tonight was a different case. I mean,
for sure.
He had to,
but as a
he
whole.
had to do as a whole though. But I mean, they're right. At some point, you need to get some of these easier games for all these guys. I mean, because you can't have to put in as much effort as they've had to in these first games, in these first 7 games to get these wins. You're going to have a few easy ones eventually. But to your point from post-game or from pre-game, this has been a really difficult schedule to start this. So that's part of it as well. I know you're looking at the 76ers and go, well, they're 1-5. This is still a good team. They just have not put it all together. And tonight, they got one of their major pieces back in Paul George as well.
It's a good team, and it's also a well-coached team.
Yes.
And it's also a well-coached team that has the personnel that marries with the coach and his philosophy. You see everything that he did with Toronto. They had a bunch of just scrappy guys, and you saw they were elite defensively. They stunk on offense, but they made life hell every night for their opponents.
Yeah.
They see a little bit of that with this Sixers team. Maybe not to the same extent as we saw with Toronto, but they're still operating in that same space. We talked about it pregame. It was more than likely they were going to make this game muddy in multiple stretches. That's quite literally what we saw them do.
Yep.
Junk defenses, putting Yabusele in, switching a lot of actions, a lot of rotations around that. They did what they could with their personnel, and Kevin Durant prevailed, as he typically does.
I mean, one of the reasons why I'm not too concerned about KD's minutes right now, I think if we get like 60, 70 games in the season and it's just consistent, then I'll be concerned, is A, what you brought up before, which is how he's being used, but B, in the fact that Bud has always been, and notoriously even to a point, the type of coach who saves his superstars from high minutes, especially when it's like hurting them. I don't think it's hurting KD right now. Like you said tonight, 15 points in the fourth quarter. He's coming on late. He's obviously in incredible shape. And if KD's not playing tired, if KD feels good and is getting a lot of runs, sometimes when you're older, it's better not to be taken out more and to be able to stay in a rhythm. That's why you saw LeBron say, I'm going to play all 82 games this year. Because when you're up and down, sometimes that's worse on your body. I don't want him being the second leading minutes player in the league on a nightly basis, but I'm not too concerned with his workload as long as once we get through this gauntlet, he does get some nights to rest.
Right, because that's the other side of things. Like, we got to remember, we're just a handful of games into the season now. Like, this was game 7. As we get closer to like game 30, then maybe you need to start really looking at that. Maybe even like 25 if you really want to push it. But like 7 games in, I don't know that we need to. No. I was guilty of this early on in the season too, so I'm not saying that I haven't had these thoughts. But I don't know that we need to be overly concerned about it just yet.
If they play the Charlottes of the world and he's playing 39 minutes because they need him to win, I'll be concerned. But, we're a week and a half, 2 weeks into the season. You've played quality opponents, and I'm all right with it right now.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like
I see.
Saturday's game pissed me off
Yeah,
because
that was-
Saturday
yeah.
you should have taken care of business.
Yeah.
Katie should have been on that bench
Yep,
for
yeah.
basically
Exactly.
the whole fourth quarter.
But
sure.
6 out of the 7 have been quality opponents
Right.
Yeah.
that you're up against.
And I'll
so.
say this part though too. It's like I think it was the 23 playoffs where the Suns are going against the Nuggets in the second round. I think KD was averaging about 40 minutes, like 39 and a half maybe at one point. Jamal Crawford, the great Jamal Crawford, mentioned that his minutes load for this team when they're playing the right way is not going to hit the same as it did in years past. At that moment in time, it was you can go to Devin Booker in multiple stretches. You can also rely on the Chris Paul, DeAndre Ayton pick and roll to run your offense for multiple stretches while Kevin Durant just chills in the corner, puts his energy forth on defense, chills on offense for 5 or 6 minutes. Now, different iteration, new context with the Suns, but it's still the same template. You still have Devin Booker, but instead of the Chris Paul and DeAndre Ayton pick and roll, you now have Tyus Jones and Yusuf Nurkic. But the caveat to all of that, when he's healthy especially, Bradley Beal. You have multiple other layers of your team process you can rely on to be effective and efficient while he doesn't have to have the ball in his hands. They haven't gotten to that point yet, obviously, which is why we're having this conversation. But if we're speaking long term, I just want the people in discourse to understand that part of it.
One last thing on the KD minutes is you also haven't had a great long streak of either Booker or Beal carrying a big load offensively. I think Beal's been consistent and solid, but nowhere near like high level offensive output. And Book had, the one explosion, but other than that, he's been really up and down. So once those things start to even out, you're going to get even less on KD's plate and presumably less minutes because those games will also presumably be a little bit more lopsided. So once things even out, I'm sure it'll all be fine.
Yeah, but we will keep an eye on it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm just going to throw this out, chat. The 300 like thing from the other night, it's back. Get there, 300. We'll put your friend Nacho in a timeout if you want. All right? 300 likes. Get there.
All right, we're going to take a quick break. On the other side, we'll dive into some numbers from tonight's game. PHNX is proud to have Sanderson Ford as our official vehicle partner. And listen, Black Friday sales are everywhere as it's become one of the biggest sale periods of the year. And with it being the day after Thanksgiving, it's fitting to say thank you. Sanderson Ford is thankful to have lived and prospered for the past 70 years in Glendale, Arizona. They're thankful for their 500 employees who take care of their customers, making Sanderson Ford America's most awarded Ford dealership. And they're all very thankful for you, their customers, because without your support, they couldn't give back and support our community with events like Operation Santa Claus. So they're saying thank you with a Black Friday thank you sale the entire month of November with great offers. You can get a new 2024 Ford F-150 trucks with 3.9 APR financing for 66 months, plus up to $4,000 cash back. Similar savings on over 900 new and pre-owned vehicles on the lot. So don't miss the Sanderson Ford Black Friday thank you sale. Disclaimer, OAC through Ford credit. Up to $4,000 cash back requires trade-in of 95 or newer vehicle. Offer expires November 30th.
Let's just say it. Some of the things I say on this program are not ordinary, right? And it's never ordinary with our friends at Bet365. Got to tell you about them. I love them. It's where I do all my wagering. And right now, if you sign up using that promo code PHNX365 and deposit $10, you're going to get to choose between two great offers, right? It's the bet and get offer where you place a bet of $5 or more, and you're going to get $200 in bonus bets just that easy. That's my favorite. But if you're feeling a little spicy, right? You want to throw a couple shekels down on something, you can do the first bet safety net. And if you place a bet up to $1,000, if it loses, you're going to get that back in bonus bets, just that simple. So highly recommend it. You want to download that app and use that promo code PHNX365 when you sign up. They've got unbelievable parlay boosts. You can get up to 100% parlay boost, double your winnings as well. So download the app, use the code PHNX365 when you sign up. Choose your offer and find out why it's never ordinary with Bet365. Must be 21 and over, physically located in AZ. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem, wants help, call 1-800-NEXT-STEP. Text NEXT STEP to 53342 or visit problemgambling.az.gov.
All right. So you guys had mentioned it a little bit in the first segment, just talking about how unique as far as the numbers go for tonight's game with what the 76ers were able to do from the three-point shooting perspective and the way that the Suns didn't exactly hit any of their markers, but still were able to win this game. So let's go ahead and take a peek inside the box. Presented by Desert Financial Credit Union, Arizona's #1 credit union, named by Forbes.
What's in the box?
Steven, break this down for us.
Yeah, so we had a very interesting game. Multiple lead changes, 19 times lead changed, 13 ties in this game. Very, very back and forth and contentious. But looking at the numbers that we picked for this game, efficiency-wise, we saw the Suns shoot fairly well from the field in general. You want to see them shoot a little bit better from the three-point line, especially from the attempts that they were able to create in that. And on the other side of things, like we talked about to open, you see the 76ers putting up a whole lot of three-point attempts and making plenty more than the Suns did. That's a margin that the Suns don't expect to lose on consistency. They were able to kind of scrap it out in the end, but you kind of see when you play the numbers the wrong way how it hurts you with this one.
Yeah, it's crazy. All the counting stats, you look at it outside of those three-pointers, you go, well, this should have been an easy Suns win.
Mm-hmm.
Then you look at the three-pointers, you go, oh, yeah, the 3 is more than 2 law comes into play here.
Yep.
And, I mean, that's the reality of it. It's just that simple. You make 9 more three-pointers than your opponents, it's going to be an interesting game. And that's what the 76ers did. That's why it was close. It still wasn't pretty. I mean, this was not a pretty game for the Suns, but, you know, the counting stats were in their favor for the most part.
Yeah, until Joel Embiid comes back for the 76ers, I think they're coming to the realization that they need to just launch threes.
Yeah.
And they did that in their one win of the season. They did that against Memphis in their loss, and they did that this game in this loss because the talent deficit is definitely there. I mean, you're starting Andre Drummond at 3, who apparently is a decent three-point shooter, Steven, according to Nick Nurse. But that's the only way that you're going to keep up, especially with teams as talented and right now as good as the then 5-1, now 6-1 Phoenix Suns. That's the ultimate equalizer in the NBA today, Lindsay, and they certainly tried to get there.
Listen, I will say, like, kudos to the Suns, right? 11 of 32. That I'm pretty sure that's the lowest that they've had all season. The fact that they were able to still sneak out a win with that type of performance compared to what we've seen from themselves, the standard they set for themselves this year is still pretty impressive. And we also knew that there were going to be moments in this season, right? Especially in the beginning, the first half of the year, where there would be a couple games where it was like we didn't quite reach the goal we had set for ourselves. We didn't quite reach the number that we had been prior to this game. And I expect them to have a couple of these throughout the season. But the fact, again, that they were able to muster up the ability to get a win despite that is a huge positive.
But this is a case study of, we talked about it last postgame, people not wanting the Suns to shoot threes, right, at a high volume. This is a perfect case study as to why you have to. Because the team that did and hit them effectively made a game out of something that shouldn't have been for them. So again, the math just makes it why you have to do this. And when you have questions about it, go back and look at this box score and you'll understand why it's so important in today's modern NBA.
Okay, so Espa, you did bring up that this game wasn't pretty.
No.
If you guys are new here, we do have this thing. It's the Buscemi meter.
It's the Spectrum.
Spectrum,
let's call it appropriately
bad.
here.
I apologize.
Look, put some respect on us insulting Steve Buscemi, all right?
So these are our categories when it comes to the Buscemi Spectrum. It's a full Buscemi, it's a messy Buscemi, a try-hard Buscemi, or a cool Buscemi.
And for the audio listeners, the full Buscemi is him cross-eyed, and it gets slightly more attractive as you backtrack it. So
the question is how Buscemi was tonight's game exactly, because we were talking about this before coming on this program. Like, we wanted to bring this up, but we couldn't agree exactly where this one fell.
No, Eric,
I've changed my mind.
No. You have to stay with. You tried to tell us
going into postgame. I was thinking it was a full Buscemi because there were a lot of scream at my TV moments. And it was a game that, I mean, they shouldn't have won. I know that we went through the stats, but if you watch the game, like, they should not have won that game. And they pulled it out right at the last second. Now, that in itself was beautiful, but all 4 quarters, I was like, that feels like a full Buscemi. But now that we've sat down and we've talked about it, I'm older, I'm more mature now. And I think I'm just going to go with the messy Buscemi. That's where I'm sitting at.
Okay. First of all, the whole premise of a Buscemi is it wasn't really pretty, but it got the job done, right?
Yes.
Right,
So that I mean,
exactly.
so it fit the full definition on that. But to me, this is a try hard Buscemi because they tried hard in every aspect. They won all these counting stats. There was one in particular in the threes that they didn't. And in the end, it was that effort, that hustle, and that completion on the defensive end that made it possible. This is a try-hard Buscemi.
See, I'm with you. Like, I don't even know that I would go as far as calling it a messy Buscemi. Because, okay, so just for some context, Saturday, full Buscemi.
100% full
Saturday,
Buscemi.
full Buscemi. Tonight, though, you didn't have any crazy runs. You didn't lose a big lead. Now, granted, it didn't feel like you could really get out and like build any sort of momentum when it came to the 76ers, but you also didn't let them do the same to you. So they were in it this whole time. Parts of it sure were a little ugly. Some of the shots were a little ugly, a couple turnovers. But like as a whole, I would just say it's a try-hard Buscemi.
Yeah.
It wasn't terrible.
Steven, where do you lay? You're the deciding vote here.
I think it was a try hard Buscemi.
Okay.
I
Look
agree
at
with that.
I
Look
like
at
that.
He was not the deciding vote. I was already outvoted.
That's why you're here, my friend.
You were unvoted, but we do have some things in the chat. Matthew said, definitely not a full Buscemi. That dude says it was a cool Buscemi. Psycho Hawk also has cool Buscemi as well. Chris has try hard. Big Buddy said it's still cool to me. So listen, we might even be judging this game a little bit too hard compared to everyone in the chat. But there you go. We're going to roll with try hard Buscemi for tonight's game. It could have been worse.
Mike Verbesa. Booker played like a full Buscemi.
I mean, listen.
Yeah.
Book's game was not great tonight. He only had 13 points. He also had 2 turnovers, a block, a steal, 6 assists, 3 rebounds. But the shooting side of things, guys, he was 3 of 18 from the field, 0 of 6 from deep. He was 7 for 7 from the charity stripe. But it was a tough game for Devin, shooting-wise.
Yeah. I mean, I'll preface this by saying I'm not worried about Devin Booker by any stretch of the means at all, just like I wasn't at the beginning of the season. But, I mean, this was just an awful game from Devin Booker. He isn't going to play like this for the rest of the season, but obviously if he plays like he does tonight, this is a team whose ceiling is dramatically lowered. They should have beaten the 76ers by much more than 2 points, and they would have if Book shot better than 3 of 18. So I'm not worried about it, but you have to call a spade, Espo. It was an awful performance.
Look, they checked him into the Cheeks clinic. They've sedated him tonight. Like that.
He's staying overnight in the
he
Cheeks
is
clinic.
staying overnight in the Cheeks clinic. Like again, this is not a condemnation of Book overall. We know that he's had his ups and downs this season, but tonight, as a one-off, this was awful. And I think he'd be the first to tell you when you shoot 3 of 18, that's awful. Like he couldn't find the basket. I mean, he had 1 3 that I'm not even sure touched the rim when it went out of bounds. I think it was a complete air ball on it. Like this was not your typical Devin Booker. He was certainly not worthy of being considered your number 1 option tonight in any way, shape, or form. He was probably 4th option by the end there because you looked at Grayson, what Royce was doing, obviously KD, and even Beal was more in that conversation tonight. So this was just an awful night for Devin. And there's no excuses on it. It was a bad night, and you hope that he bounces back from that kind of night because traditionally he has.
But what I will say to bring some context, I think you both have hit it on the head with in terms of his scoring. He's not paid to be good in one dynamic. He's also not, in paradigm-wise, shaped in this team to be the 4th best on any given night. So he has to check off all his boxes. What I will say, though, I do feel like he checked off his box in his playmaking today. 6 assists is not just the assist total because he had a couple passes that were perfect that just weren't converted on. I think that's an important piece for his comprehensive game because it's then when his scoring has the impact that it can have on any given night, and you tandemize that with his playmaking abilities, now you have a player that's top 7 when he's at his absolute best. And I think there's value in that even with the lack of scoring today. I just want to make sure we mention that part too.
Oh, no, I agree wholeheartedly
For sure.
looking at some of the other things. But when it comes down to if he had that passing and he was 3 of 7, and you go, hey, it's a different kind of night, right?
For sure.
But it's the fact that he kept shooting, he didn't get out of that slump, that it makes it so much worse. And by the end, in that fourth quarter, with about 4 or 5 minutes left, you knew that wasn't going to him.
Yeah.
You knew it was going elsewhere.
And you wanted it to go elsewhere too, and that is just kind of representative of his game. But this is somebody who just won Western Conference Player of the Week, right?
Yeah.
Like we all know who he is.
Yeah.
There's no problem with this. A month from now, nobody's gonna care that he went 3 of 18. But to your point, Steven, with the playmaking, I think in nights like tonight, where it was very clear off the jump that the shot was not falling for him, I need him to lean a little bit more into that, because they said in the chat, like, sometimes he forces shots, and like, yeah, you're 3 of 18. You probably forced a couple of those. You have so much talent around you, and a lot of guys having pretty good games. Royce O'Neal, Grayson Allen, Bradley Beal, Yusuf Nurkic, all had good games. Of course, we already talked about Kevin Durant. Lindsay, I'd like to see him lean a little bit more into that playmaking, facilitating role when occasionally the shot's not falling for him.
See, I get where you're coming from, but I do have a question about that. But we're going to take a quick break, and then we'll dive deeper into that after this. Listen, it's a late game, so if you're up way later than normal and you need to pick me up on your way into work tomorrow, the best place to get it is Circle K. They've got coffee, they've got energy drinks, they've got Polar Pops, they've got Frosters. They got all kinds of snacks and goodies if you forget to make breakfast as well. And right now, you're going to want to join the Inner Circle, their free membership program, because when you sign up, first and foremost, you're going to save 25 cents per gallon on your first 5 fill-ups. You save 3 cents per gallon every single day. Plus, there are plenty of other member-exclusive deals and discounts, like the one they have going on right now, where you can get a Polar Pop or Froster, any size, for just 79 cents. That is a member-exclusive beverage deal in the Inner Circle app. So join the Inner Circle for free by downloading the Circle K app today. Terms and conditions apply at participating locations. Visit CircleK.com for details.
Yeah, I got to tell you, my favorite place to go with us as a group is Gila River Resorts and Casinos. Look, I've been to all the casinos, whether it's here or other desert cities. I've seen them all, and I got to tell you, our friends at Gila River Resorts and Casinos know how to do it better than anybody else. Wild Horse Pass, Lone Butte, V-Kiva, and Santan Mountain are some of the best venues that you can go to. I love Wild Horse Pass. Spent a lot of time out there. 4,500 slots and live table games. All the action at the best sports book. You will love it out there. And they've got unbelievable food. As you can tell, I like food. It's not a surprise, right? And they have the unbelievable Prime Ashula's Steakhouse out there. You got to check it out. Some fantastic eats. And if you're looking for something more casual, they've got unbelievable options throughout the premise as well. We're going to be hosting a bunch of live events out there, as well as the Cardinals. So check that out on our events calendar. You do you at Gila River Resorts and Casinos. Visit playatgila.com for more details.
Okay, so Eric, you were saying that you want Book to lean in a little bit more into the playmaking side of things when the shots aren't falling. I do get what you're saying, but my question would be, aren't we supposed to ask players of a Devin Booker caliber, of a Kevin Durant caliber, to shoot through a slump and to continue shooting the ball because they've earned that right to kind of shoot through it?
I think yes and no. I think at the beginning of the game, and when you're still trying to establish a rhythm in the game, you don't want to just cut him off. I mean, he has probably the second longest leash on the entire team and one of the longer ones in the NBA. But when it gets down to crunch time, when the game is really close and your shot is still not falling, like, you just kind of have to read that situation better. And he is an incredible playmaker. I mean, if he was full-time playmaker, he could probably average double-digit assists. Like, it's not about, hey, Book, you're just not good today. We need you to stop doing things. It's, hey, man, you are so good that when one thing falls down a little bit, read the situation. And if you're not being able to shoot through it, like, he's not 3 of 10. He's 3 of 18.
Right.
Once he hit like 3 of 12, 3 of 13, let's just maybe look at the game a little bit differently. And I'm sure part of that goes through his head. He's so good at the playmaking side of it. I want him to be able to have that as a fallback.
Follow up. Do we feel like he was forcing shots, especially down the stretch, or was he just missing shots that he normally would make?
He was missing good looks. I don't think he was taking shots that were out of rhythm or or ones that were inappropriate in the moment of the game, right? He was missing good looks. And that is different than, I think, forcing it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think when you're a shooter like Devin Booker, your belief is the next one's always going to fall, right? And that's part of what makes him so good, because we've seen it. He can go 0 for 5 in a stretch and then all of a sudden rattle off 20 straight points, and everybody's like, well, he went Armani mode, right? So I think I can understand where you're coming from, but I don't feel like that was the case here. And I feel in the final 3 or 4 minutes when they went on that run, he didn't take any of those shots, right? Mm-hmm. When the ball did touch his hand, he whipped it around, right? He got it elsewhere. So I think in that moment, he picked it. But yeah, 3 of 18 is brutal, though. I mean, there's no way around that.
Yeah.
To your point, though, Eric, I do understand exactly what you're saying, especially late in the game. Like, I missed my bet because of Book shooting tonight.
And that's what I was thinking about.
And my first thought was, I'd rather somebody else take this shot, even though I need Book to make shots for me to win. I would kind of rather somebody else right now do that, simply because, and it was kind of as KD started to kind of take over the game, and I was like, let's just continue to feed KD.
Yeah.
And it wasn't out of like anger or anything towards Book. It was like, KD's just playing really well, so let's continue to feed it. Exactly. And I think that's the biggest.
Devin Booker, Kevin Durant on the same team.
That's the biggest takeaway, is that we should be so thankful that if one of our stars has an off night, we have another one.
What happened when Kevin Durant scored 18 points?
Devin Booker had 40.
That's what happens. It's okay.
Yeah.
And some people in the start are like, he wasn't forcing. He was forcing. End of the game, not forcing. I think in the middle of the game, he forced a little bit to get in the rhythm. But at the end of the day, like, it's fine. It's not going to be a pattern. It's not going to be always. It's nitpicking and critiquing the best shooting guard in the game. Like, it happens. It's okay.
I think there's push and pull with that, forcing it versus letting the game come to you when you're in the slump. First of all, when you're in his position and you're as prolific a scorer as he is, no one's really going to question that part. I do think the benefit of having him be a little bit more aggressive than normal, though, is getting to the free throw line. He did lead the team in free throw attempts today, trips to the line. He had 7 of those. I think there's a lot of value to having that part at least checked off in there. So where you're trying, it's showing that there's intent there. You're not just jacking up shots and trying to steal back your rhythm from the field. So I think that shows his maturity in this game. But obviously, you don't want him doing it to the detriment of the flow of the offense when other players like Grayson Allen and Royce O'Neal even are knocking down shots to the extent that they were today.
Yeah.
Mirage says nobody's mentioned Bud's coaching this year. So far this year, he's like an A++.
We've talked about that like 82 times this season, Mirage.
Matter of fact, he's in the show line for today.
Yeah,
100%.
Yeah, I mean, he definitely deserves his props in terms of what he did tonight as well. And there's something to be said for a coach that understands Kevin Durant could just take over in the end, too.
Well, and the thing with Bud that, had me scratching my head a little bit, but then you look at it at the end, was he stuck big. He stayed with Yusuf Nurkic when the 76ers went small, and it was working with Gershon Yabusele at center, Lindsay.
Yeah, I mean, technically, yes. But also, I was kind of surprised that he also didn't try to fight fire with fire and match their size there, throw in Ryan Dunn a little bit more, and take out, like, our traditional centers, because he also did what did he knock down? What was he from deep tonight?
1 of 3.
Nerd?
No. Yabusele, 5 of 11.
Oh, if he had 11, then this game's
5
tough.
of 11. And that's adding on a couple, because I think midway through the fourth quarter, it was like
he went cold
better
at the end,
percentage.
Oh, yeah, he missed 2 or 3 there.
I want to say it was like 5 of 8 or something like that.
Yeah.
Like, he was pretty hot tonight.
But the thing with Nurk is that, I mean, 15 points, 15 rebounds. Yeah, he had his turnovers, but 2 steals and a block. Highest plus minus on the team in a game, a plus 16 in a game decided by 2. That's really impressive. Like, really impressive.
You can't say that, though, Eric, because the people that are trying to run Nurk out of town want you to believe that it was an awful Yusuf Nurkic game because he missed a couple free throws and he had some turnovers, right?
Well,
it was a bad night for Yusuf Nurkic.
I got some bad news for those people. Last 5 minutes of this game, the 76ers scored 1 point. The Suns were plus 11. You know who was on the court for all of those minutes?
Yusuf Nurkic.
And to the point, kind of bringing 1 and 1 together, mentioned not speaking to Budenholzer, guess what? I got something for that too. You look at Yusuf Nurkic, his usage over the course of this game defensively, he was doing a lot of great job, multiple efforts and help, rim protection without fouling, which is important for him. In the fourth quarter, those last 5 minutes, he comes back in for his final shift, and Mike Budenholzer switches up his coverage from being back on the screen to being up on the screen and hedging out. And that really sent the Sixers offense off script in multiple moments. Talk about them only scoring 1 point the last 5 minutes and 0 points the last 3 minutes and 22 seconds. You don't get to that without having the defensive versatility that Budenholzer pressed the button on and that Nurkic was able to execute to in this game.
And that's why he's Yusuf Wayne Nurkic.
Speaking of Nurk, here's what Coach Bud had to say after tonight's game about why the Suns stuck with him instead of going small.
A little bit of a gut and a feel thing, and I just thought Nurk was good tonight. I thought his screening was helping us, his rebounding. He played well, and so I think that's just each night different guys. We got to try and read it and feel it, and everybody I think's been respectful and excited for their teammate to step up and do well. And Nurk's size and rebounding and his pick and roll defense tonight was very good. And in the roll, able to catch and finish and get to the free throw line. He just did a lot of things well.
He did a lot of things well. Is the perfect way to kind of encapsulate his game today. And for as loud as his the dismay that people have for him is and has been, not saying it hasn't been warranted, it should equally be as loud today. But again, like we've talked about before, Espo, only thing that's fair are pigs being judged. That's the only time. So you can't expect it. I would just like to see the transparency there. If you're gonna be that loud about him not having good games, at least give him some credit, especially because a game like this, you talk about Kevin Durant, they don't win this game without Nurkic being as good as he was.
I love that I've become the poster boy for people thinking I'm like a Nurkic stan on Twitter. But the reality is we understand there's the good and the bad with Yusuf Nurkic. Yep. That's the whole point of what's been said right now. Tonight this was the good. And yeah, there were turnovers. That's coming with Yusuf Nurkic. It happened last year. You knew that was part of the deal coming in. But he also played well. He rebounded well. He played good defense. He scored. He was efficient in the way he scored. So you got to accept that as well. My whole point has been you need multiple options at center to run this right. And tonight was one of those really good matchups that Nurk could take advantage of, right? And there will be another night coming up that isn't that, and you're going to have an option at center. But you got to give him his props, like you're saying.
Absolutely. And if anybody thinks that we're going to let it slide if Yusuf Nurkic has a terrible game, go listen to any of the post games after he had a terrible game. I mean, we're ripping the dude apart. You have to tell it like it is. And for him, it's up and down. Last year, we had the roller coaster. I don't know what we can call it this year, but it's the same way with Yusuf Nurkic. And, part of the reason why you get rid of DeAndre Ayton was contract value to talent and the ability to try and be willing every single night. Well, Yusuf Nurkic is making about half of what DeAndre Ayton makes, and he's giving you more effort than that every single night. I know that he's not perfect, and I know that it really sucks to watch him turn the ball over 5 times, and it could be really frustrating when he doesn't have 15 points and 15 rebounds. But the Suns are not making an investment in center like they're making an investment in guard, in Booker, and Beal, and Tyus, or in forwards like they have with Royce, and Grayson, and KD. Nurkic is not some massive swing that the Suns front office took. This is a dude who is getting paid about fairly for what he produces on the court. You live with it.
I like Nurk. I am willing him to have success this season. I get it. There's going to be ups and downs with him. Espo, like you said, there's going to be some bad matchups where you're going to have to turn to some other options besides Nurk. But he's a great teammate. And when he does play well, he plays really well for this team. And yeah, turnover sucks sometimes. But listen, we've said that about a whole bunch of guys on this squad. We can't single him out.
Yeah,
he can't be the only one we get mad at when they turn the ball over. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I think at this point, and you're never going to get the nuance with it, Steven. You're never going to get the people who look at the negative and also look at the positive. That's not how like basketball specifically discourse works. But that's why, when he has a game like this, like you have to amplify it. And if he shows up the next game and he sucks, we're going to amplify that as well. Like how he plays is how we talk about it. There's no apologizing for it here.
No, it's a reason that fan is short for fanatic. If you're fanatical about something, in a lot of ways, it's not rational,
it's
right?
Passion.
So it does not shock me that there's a group of people that just want to run him out of town and another group of people that defend him. And on this show, we're pretty much down the middle.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, there's going to be games you play him. There's going to be games you don't. I don't know how much more you can be down the middle with it than that. So.
Definitely. All right. Let's jump back to KD real quick because we have a clip of Coach Bud talking about Kevin Durant closing out the game down the stretch.
Tonight is an example of why he's such a great player. Makes tough shots, can make something out of nothing. His length, he can just he can do so many things to put the ball in the basket. And the last one is great to get an offensive rebound, to get that extra possession. The matchups, they had their big on him away from the basket. And he was able to drive him and finish. So Kevin was great. I love that we were able to get an offensive rebound to create the extra possession. Special from Kevin.
Special from Kevin.
I wonder if he'll be any good in his career.
Drink it all in, you guys.
Oh, okay. I don't say this to... At what point when he does it all the time, is it not special and it's just Kevin Durant? I mean, compared to others, yes, special. Tonight was Kevin Durant being Kevin Durant. Like, that wasn't anything special for him. That was him being him, right?
I 100% get what you're saying. And I think that's why it's important. One, that's why I always put him in book at different thresholds for earning the big, bright, shiny star or whatever type of things. Because I'm like, I can't compare you to everyone else. You're in your own category. So I have to compare you to you or the 2 or 3 people who are similar to you. But we don't play them every night. And some of them aren't even in the league anymore. But it's we have to sit back sometimes and remind ourselves that this is not ordinary. This is not something that most people get to have on their team ever in however long it's been that you've been a fan. So we just have to remind ourselves every once in a while that it is special.
35, 6-4 will be lost in one of the many similar games that Kevin Durant has played like this in his career. And that is so insane to me. If Mikhail for us had 35, 6-4, not to always bring it back to that, that's a Mikhail game you're going to remember. By the time Kevin Durant's career is over, his time with the Suns is done, this will just be another one of those small memories that we don't remember because he's going to have about 50 other games that surpass this.
That's the funny thing. When you become so special, you become less special in those moments. It's a very weird dichotomy, and I think you do have to recognize him for it, but also understand there's probably another one of these coming down the pike, maybe even on Wednesday, which is the craziest thing with Kevin Durant and all this. My favorite moment tonight wasn't a made buck. It was that stank face he gave after he hit one of those shots late in the fourth, and you're like, that's a man that knows he's a badass, right? And that is not afraid to remind you that he is. That was a very Heisenberg, moment. I'm the one who knocks, right? Don't forget my name kind of moment.
Can we talk about the faces and emotions we've gotten from KD a little bit this season? He's got big excitement, celebrations for his teammates. He's smiling during games, even the stank face, like you said, Espo. I feel like it was very far and few in between last year that we got that type of emotion from him. And I'm just really glad. Again, it speaks to this team's chemistry. It speaks to their togetherness. It speaks to how much fun they're having.
It speaks to him, too. He's not performative, right?
He's not.
That's genuine emotion you're seeing from Kevin Durant. That's genuine enjoyment. That's genuine, I'm feeling it in this moment. And that tells you how bad things were last year within the walls, that you did not see that kind of joy from him almost at any point last season.
One of my favorite moments from him, since we're on the topic. So when veterans go to the bench, especially when you're a veteran status of Kevin Durant and you've been in the league for this long, when you're sitting on the bench, you might see them like wave a towel once in a while. Rarely do you see them stand up out of their seats, take the heating pads off the knees, take the butt warmer that's underneath them, all of this bandaging off to stand up. Ryan Dunn gets that one sequence where I think he knocks down a three or gets a block and then comes down court and gets a dunk in transition after that. And first person up off the bench, Kevin Durant, taking off towels. He always has the towel around his neck like a handkerchief. Pulls that off. He's waving it above his head, and he's embracing the rookie. It's moments like that, to both of you two's point, that speak to the status of this team and where they are in respect to last season.
Don't worry, Steven. You get to the point where standing up's an effort, too. Yeah, so.
I'm not looking forward to it. I'm fighting it on the daily, all right?
All right. Well,
I have a little bit of context on the KD specialness thing real quick.
Okay.
Averages for the season, 26.9 points per game, 6.6 rebounds per game, 3.4 assists per game, 43.6% from three. He's on pace to join LeBron and a certain power forward from Utah that we don't mention as the only players aged 36 or older to average 25 points per game. I'm feeling pretty confident he's going to hit that mark. I mean, we're talking about one of one, and there's absolutely zero debate about it.
Yeah, 100%.
That guy from Utah also, by the way, a.k.a. Redacted.
Yes.
Yeah, that's it. That's all I have to say.
Yes.
You said age 36. That's about twice what he liked. So.
All right.
Generous.
So on that note, we are going to take a quick break, but when we come back, we will hear from Kevin Durant about that final play. Listen, if you're an Arizona sports fan, there's no better place to do your banking than Desert Financial Credit Union. It's the only place where you can show your team spirit every time you make a purchase with exclusive debit cards branded with your favorite teams. For more than 84 years, Desert Financial Credit Union has been Arizona's largest, most trusted local credit union, dedicated to creating exceptional experiences by giving back to the community and providing financial solutions that make lives better. The Desert Financial team are financial experts who are committed to their members and the community, and you can look to them for checkings accounts, savings accounts, mortgages, loans, credit cards, investment options, and so much more. You want to join a credit union that is committed to giving back to the community and sharing success with its members, and that's Desert Financial. Right now, when you open a free checking account online, you're going to get $200 in bonuses. So get started by visiting desertfinancial.com/200.
Look, I know this is going to surprise a lot of people, but I didn't have much of a social life when I was younger. But you know what I have now? Quite the social calendar, thanks to PHNX. And Thursday night, you can come hang out with me. We're going to do some trivia out of Chicken and Pickle. We'll have some fun there. RSVP, come on out. We're going to have a great trivia night. Our friend Derek Montilla, the mayor of PHNX, yeah, I said it. He's going to be out there running things. I'll be out there as well. We're going to have big prizes for the number one team out there as well. Plus, you got to join us next Monday. We're going to be out at the Valley Suns opener.
Let's go.
The very first Valley Suns game. We're doing a takeover. They're taking on not John Stockton. The Stockton Kings they're taking on out there on Monday. You can join us out at Mullet Arena, where we will also be doing a takeover and pregame meal out at Zip. So join us out there. Head to the events page on gophnx.com and you can get your tickets there.
All right. You guys ready to hear from Kevin Durant?
Yes.
All right.
See.
Here's what he had to say on the final play where he gave the Suns the lead.
Oh, yeah, we had proper spacing. When I got the ball, first of all, Grayson with the incredible offensive rebound. I think I might have shot a quick three there, but I was feeling good about myself, so I pulled that one. But Grayson made a great offensive rebound, which kind of set us up. And once you get offensive rebound, they're scrambling a little bit. So we got Yubaseli on me, and that's the matchup we wanted. And so, I mean, he's a center, so there's not really much rim protection back there. So I just decided to drive. But to be honest, I think that Book was right next to you on the wing. That cut out from the wing allowed me to get some space, so they can't help help me in that driving lane. So stuff that we emphasize every day, just spacing, and it's a good play for us.
Not to harp on the whole leadership thing, but did you notice that he spent about 85% of that answer talking about what everybody else did? to help set up his greatness. I shrug. That's all I got to say.
Clown. Not you.
Stephen
A.
I was like, come on, man.
Nah,
I mean, Zach in the chat said Katie always gives his teammates credit.
Yeah.
Well, because the great ones know that without those guys doing those little things, their job's 10 times harder, even if they're that good. When they're doing the right things, it makes it easy for that greatness to look effortless the way it did there. So, I mean, he gets it, and I applaud him for it, because there is a lot of hard work across the roster that goes into it that puts him in a position to do that.
And to his point, and I'm glad he brought it up, Mike Budenholzer also spoke to it too. Spoke to KD having a mismatch with Yabusele and driving that, but KD talked about the process of Devin Booker cutting to remove the help, giving him that much more space to get to that driving lane, to his strong hand. A lot of times when you get an advantage, the advantage that is going to be executed comes from something external of the primary matchup. That's exactly what we saw there. And he's speaking to the Suns space, and that's what they've been doing ad nauseum this season.
Well, I think those are the little things that in first watch most people don't see, right? Yep. And it's sometimes, even for me, it's second watch that you actually see those things, because in real time, when you're so focused on what's going to happen in that moment, you miss those things, but they're so key to what's actually going on the court.
Guess what, everybody? Gerald's about to join us here in just a little bit, so make sure you hit that thumbs up button for Gerald Bourguet. But while he's getting set up, we do have a couple super chats here to talk through. Manuel sent us one. They said, Book needs to burn that damn headband. Listen, I am in agreement on that one.
Gerald did the analytics on this.
That was last year. What's the analytics say this year? He won Western Conference Player of the Week, and last week he didn't wear the headband. Suck it, Espo.
All right.
Suck it, Espo.
Fine.
I win.
I defend analytics and I get screwed because of it. I see.
Crusader sent us one and said, Eric's a quarter of an inch away from showing too much leg. LOL.
Well, I don't know who Eric with a C is, so he better pull his shorts down. But Eric with a K, I think he's all right.
And I got bad news. Eric with a K owns a shorter pair of shorts. So
I'm
I got bad news for you.
There's two balls you're going to see, but it's the one on the table and the one that our friend Steven's holding. That's it. All right.
People who are listening on audio are probably so confused by that comment. Steven podcast with a basketball in his lap.
And there's a basketball on the table.
Multiple basketballs.
What are we doing?
Shout out to everybody in the chat that said Espo is in his prime, because I completely agree with you 1,000%.
Nobody said it was a good prime.
Oh my God. John Smith sent us one. Thank you, John. They said sit Nurk the rest of the season. No. We're not doing that.
And start Mason Plumlee?
No, we're not doing that. Michael sent us one and said, what are we going to do with Nurk, guys? We're going to ride it out.
Keep playing him in matchups that it works, like tonight, and not play him as much in matchups that don't work, like when you play AD. You need an additional center in that rotation. I am like a broken record on this program. By the way, I'm going to continue to make these jokes till I make Kyle behind the Mac have some kind of reaction. That is my goal.
I don't think you'll ever get any.
I know.
No chance there. Killer Rex sent us one as well, and they said, teams allergic to defense, turn it over too much. Katie's bound to get hurt playing this many minutes. Beal's been a soldier, though. He deserves flowers. You are absolutely correct, Killer Rex. He does deserve some flowers. We're going to welcome in Gerald Bourguet.
In the darkness, beyond the light, there shall only be one. Welcome, you
Gerald! What's going on, Gerald?
Hey, everybody.
How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. How about you guys?
Great. Listen, Kevin Durant, absolutely phenomenal tonight, closing out this game. We did get to hear from him. Thank you for sending all those clips of Coach Bud and KD talking about the final stretch. But before we dive into Kevin Durant, I want to give you an opportunity to give a little love to Bradley Beal, because we haven't touched on him yet. And he was definitely huge for this team earlier in the game before KD took over.
Yeah, absolutely. I think his focus coming into the season on the defensive side of the ball is something that we probably haven't talked as much about as we should, because a lot of the conversation around him has been, what's his offensive role going to look like? Is he going to be available because he's dealing with the shoulder thing and now the elbow thing? But he's been great on that side of the ball, obviously coming into the season 20 pounds lighter, looking a lot more athletic and spry. And I feel like he was great tonight in terms of, like, he didn't put up phenomenal numbers, but he was great for them in stretches. And I think chasing Tyrese Maxey all over the court when you are not a defensive lockdown guy is not an easy thing to do. And he was following Maxey all over the court. They weren't switching a lot. He was battling through screens, just following this guy who was moving all over the damn place. And I thought he did a decent job, even though Maxey got free a couple times, launched a couple threes. Without him and his effort on that front, they don't win this game. Mike Budenholzer, Kevin Durant both praised him after the game, and Bradley Beal was saying that, when he did his period of kind of self-reflection after last season, reevaluating, okay, who am I as a player on this team? What role do they need me to take on? He was saying defensively, he needed to really fixate on that, because down the stretch of last season, he was guarding everybody from Zion to, Steph Curry, all these different guys, and he knew it was something that this team needed from him. So he's been willingly taking on that task.
I will say, Gerald, Bradley Beal's been really good at doing all the little things today and basically the entire season. And it's part of your point as to why he should always be the starter. But I also noticed that you put a clip out there about if he takes pride in doing some of the little things like screening. What did he have to say about that?
Yeah, I think down the stretch, it was one of his screens that freed up KD for one of those 2 go-ahead buckets, if I remember correctly. And, he was saying that, like, he takes pride in it because he understands what it's like to be hugged up on all game by a defender, them grabbing your jersey, kind of being physical with you. And so he was saying, like, I take it, it bothers me when we don't get Kevin Durant the ball enough. So he wanted to make sure he freed him up. And we have seen Mike Budenholzer use Bradley Beal, Devin Booker, Grayson Allen, Royce O'Neal, all of these guards and wings as screeners. And it's a way to create advantages. And all of those guys have their different little nuances that they bring to the table in terms of making that an effective play. And we saw it down the stretch there when, you get your best scorer, your go-to guy down the stretch, and your best player tonight, the ball in a situation, and let him do what an all-time great does.
Hey, Gerald, looking at the Suns in the clutch today, they held the 76ers to 1 field goal and 1 free throw point in that stretch of the game, and in the final 322, they gave up just that 1 free throw, leaving them scoreless from the field. A lot of that saw Yusuf Nurkic featured and really being a disrupting on the defensive end. Can you just speak to what the general energy and response to Nurkic's performance defensively was today?
Yeah, I had actually asked Budenholzer about why he stuck with Nurk down the stretch. I think you guys played that clip already, but it was telling that Bud was saying, Nurk was good tonight as the chief reason there. And I think defensively, what they were doing with him at the level, what they were doing with him all night. Like, I know he had the 5 turnovers. He had a couple of plays, especially down the stretch, that were like glaringly, oh man, why is this guy out there? But on the defensive end, a lot of what he did went relatively unnoticed by comparison. The fact that he had 15 rebounds and was really helping them on that front to make sure that an offensive rebounder like Andre Drummond wasn't having a field day with this team when that's an area of weakness that we know of. So I thought Nurk was good tonight. I was kind of surprised, to be honest with you, that the Suns didn't go small down the stretch, especially when they put Guerschon Yabusele out there, because that's a stretch 5, and we saw a little bit of how this team might struggle to cover stretch 5s when that's the case. But Bud gave him a shot, and it panned out in the end. It worked out for them, so that's good for Nurk's confidence, because as we've been saying, like, there aren't a lot of realistic options in terms of upgrading that 5 spot, and they can't just abandon that guy completely. So they're going to need to build up his confidence a little bit more. I think it was a gamble by Bud in this game to do so, and I think in this case it worked out in their favor.
How much talk was there about Book tonight, and obviously the struggles from the field?
Yeah, I mean, I asked Mike Budenholzer whether it felt like he was pressing or whether, they're comfortable with a good player trying to shoot his way back into a rhythm there. And he was saying, yeah, no, I mean, I feel like that's, like, we've seen the shot making from him. We're perfectly comfortable. He has the greenest of green lights to keep shooting. Me personally, I feel like there were a couple of instances where it felt like he was pressing a little bit and trying to, turn his night around with a shot here and there. But again, that's like Devin Booker is a shot maker. Kevin Durant is a shot maker. These are the guys that you want taking shots. And even when it feels like they're bad shots because he's having an off night, like, yeah, some of those I think could have been redirected or funneled into a Kevin Durant or into a Bradley Beal or just running their offense. But Budenholzer said after the game he didn't feel like he was forcing out there. Like, these are shots that they want their best players taking. And I'm sorry, but like, this guy is just coming off Western Conference Player of the Week. So if we're going to sit here and be like, no, Book's a ball hog, Book sucks, like, what are we doing? That is extremely short-term memory loss that we're suffering from.
Hey, I got a question about Book while we're on the topic. Espo tried to tell me that the headband analytics for last year carried over to this year, but I feel like, correct me if I'm wrong, Gerald, is he not having better games this year without the headbands?
I mean, it's a small sample size. I will say the last 2 games before this one, I believe, he did not wear the headband. He played well, but there were 3 games last week that earned him Player of the Week. I need to look into the numbers before I say definitively.
That one versus the 2.
Yeah, but I think it's like a 2-game sample size versus the other 5. I think the 2 were his best games so far, but it's a long season, guys. So rest assured, the headband Book follow-up article will be coming at some point later in the year.
I'm so excited for it. I'm team no headband. You know this. I've been this forever. So just had to check.
I have a question on the headband, Gerald. Has anybody asked him what determines on any given day if he's wearing the headband or if he's not wearing the headband? Like, is there a meaning behind it?
No, that is my next question for him. I didn't get a chance to ask him the other night because I can't remember. There was a lot going on the other night when we were talking to him. But yes, it's definitely on my radar to kind of get, okay, why did you start wearing the headband? What determines whether you do wear it or don't? What determines what color of headband you're going to wear? This is the exclusive reporting that you come to expect from PHNX Sports.
We love it here.
Brought to you by the guy that figured out what Devin Booker's favorite flavor of ice cream is. That's right, Girth. Nobody does it better.
Gerald, in all seriousness, though, has Devin been released from the Cheeks Clinic yet, or is he going to spend the night there?
I think it was just a temporary check-in, guys. In and out rehab. He's fine.
Good. We needed to know that. Hey, are we all done with like real basketball questions?
I was
or do you have one more?
Yeah, that last one was a real basketball
I was
question.
like, listen, I was the
You have
one
to
who
let me
started
know.
us
You
on
have
this
to let me
journey.
know
I'm
we don't have
sorry.
more time. Don't ask
Stevie,
if I
go
got
ahead.
more.
You got one more. You got 2 more if you need it.
Just one. We good. I'll spare you. Great. Royce O'Neal again.
Yes.
Coming in off the bench, leading the team in scoring off the bench. 15, knocked down 3 attempts from deep, in addition to 6 of 9 from the field. What have you seen from him where he just finds ways across multiple lineup iterations to just get the job done, whether that be him guarding Paul George defensively, knocking down shots offensively, even driving to the basket? Much to Espo's pleasure in seeing him finish at the basket, just kind of what have been your general assessments of Royce the last handful of games?
Yeah, I feel like the term Swiss Army knife gets overused a lot in this league. Royce is more like, what was that like putty that the OxyClean guy used to advertise where you just slap it on and it
Flex
just
tape.
plugs up.
Flex
Yeah,
seal.
Flex
seal.
tape.
Seal, yeah,
Like,
Flex
come on.
seal, yep.
Guys.
Yeah, he's Flex Seal. Like he is able to play in small ball lineups, and Budenholzer before the game was talking about how, they've relied on his rebounding, his ability. Like, he was saying that he really shines in that environment in terms of all the different things that he brings to a table for a lineup that needs all of those specific things in order to make the small ball work in the first place. But like you mentioned, he can also play in traditional lineups as a 3, as an undersized 4, taking on a number of defensive matchups, whether it's a rangy wing who can handle on the perimeter like a Paul George, or a boxier, more physical wing down in the post, or even in small stretches when they're going really small, a center for a couple possessions here and there. And then on the other end, like, he's just been really good. He's shooting a career high from 3, which obviously helps during this small sample size. That number is not going to stay as high as it has been, but when he does come in, like we've said before, when he does come in and knocks down those 3s, it makes his impact feel borderline unfair because of all the other things that he's already doing as a connective passer, as a willing screener, as a rebounder. He's just a very smart player, very underrated player with this group so far, even though we've talked about him quite a few times already. And yeah, he's just coming in. He's got that, high catch and release down. So he's a guy that can get off a shot in a hurry, which makes him valuable in late clock situations if you're kicking to him in the corner or on the wing and you need a three. Like he's just been really impressive to start the season.
Ted Offensive in the chat said that Royce's hour being Suns fans, Derek White. And it's not perfect, but I like the template in terms of what both players do for this team, where to your point, when everybody else is doing what they need to do, and then this player is a major positive like that, it's like a knockout punch. And to that extent, I certainly agree.
And I'm writing about him pretty soon, but the stats coming into this night, I'm pretty sure the Suns had a plus 20 net rating around there with him on the court, and a team worse minus 14 net rating whenever he sat. That's a bench guy. So that kind of speaks to the starting lineup needing to build some chemistry as well. But Royce has just been so good and so valuable when he's been in the game. Even in a small sample size, those numbers speak for themselves.
The last thing I had for you, Gerald, is we've thrown some shade at Stephen A. Smith a little bit here on the program, here and there, just in passing. But obviously, Kevin Durant did speak about the comments in the back and forth again earlier this past weekend. He mentioned it again tonight, just in the context of Joel Embiid and the situation that arose this weekend. Without diving into Joel Embiid's side of things, what exactly did KD kind of say within that?
Yeah, I think it's important to differentiate because obviously the question was kind of lumping two very different situations into one. And I feel like KD was more so addressing his situation because they are different in terms of the way that they went about handling those. But yeah, he basically just said, like, you know, you guys critique us and we feel like we can critique you when you don't do well as well. You know, he's been saying, I feel like the question was, you know, your run-ins with the media, and he flipped it and was kind of like, I feel like for the last 10 years, it's been the media has had run-ins with me. And I think to a certain degree, that is fair in terms of the way that he's unfairly characterized as not being a leader by people who are nowhere near his teams, the locker room, doing any due diligence in terms of asking his actual teammates and coaches what they think. And to a certain degree, I understand that, like, when we ask Coach Budenholzer or all of his teammates about Kevin Durant's leadership, they're going to have his back. They're going to say positive things. No one's going to come out and say, you know, if they actually thought KD was a bad leader, they're not going to come out and say that. But there's so many different teammates that all say the exact same thing about his leadership style, about his work ethic. It would feel like it's from a playbook, except it is genuine and authentic to hear it from 20 plus people that are all saying the exact same thing. So at some point, you've got to listen to the people that are actually in the building, that have put in the sweat equity with this guy, that have been inspired by his work ethic, and that have called attention to the fact that this season he has been more vocal, that he has been in guys' ears about, you know, turnovers or defensive assignments or all these different things, in addition to leading by example. So, you know, I understand that when you have a big national TV show that you're not going to be able to make it to every, you know, shoot around or practice of guys that you're inevitably going to have to talk about. But at a certain point, you have to do some sort of homework before you're going to open your mouth about things like that and say negative things that damage a player's reputation when everybody else is saying the exact opposite.
For sure. Well, thank you, Gerald. We appreciate everything you bring to us night in and night out. Everyone, be sure to give him a follow on social at Gerald Bourguet. And of course, read all of his articles over at gophnx.com. Become a diehard, because then you get even more Gerald content, bonus content, if you will. Bye, Gerald.
Bye, guys.
All right, we have, I believe, one final super chat here. This one is from Billy. Thank you, Billy. They said, Booker may have had an off night shooting, but he played hard defense and played hard, period. Gotta love Book.
Yeah, he still does the little things even when he's not shooting well, like we talked about earlier, and that's always been his mentality. I mean, but more often than not, you're going to see him do all of it at the same time. So it just wasn't one of those nights.
Yeah, I think, you know, we're talking about the things he did well, playing hard. His defense, particularly on Paul George, was very impressive for me. A handful of reps where Paul George was handling an empty corner pick and roll, which puts a lot of emphasis on the person that's guarding him to not get beat in terms of navigating the screen. One time he ducks under, keeps him funneled to the outer third, eventually double teams and converges with, I think, use of Nurkic on the block. And then Nurkic ends up rotating over to get a block on the rotation after that on the pass. And then another rep, he just outright navigates the screen perfectly, stays attached. Everybody else on defense gets to stay at home in the defensive shell and end up getting another stop from that. Little moments like that, you need it.
Yeah, and we're pretty tough, and I was pretty tough on Book earlier today, and that's because the standards for him are so high. I think he's the best shooting guard in the league, and I'm confident in that, so I'm going to hold him to that high standard. Part of the reason why I believe that is because he does more than just score the ball. And everything that you guys mentioned, like, that is why the city loves him so much. That's why every NBA player loves him so much. It's why Kevin Durant and Bradley Beal wanted to play with him. It's because he's not just some empty calories guy that everybody told us he was in the first 5 to 6 years of his career. No, he's a complete, well-rounded basketball player, and he tries hard every single night. Tonight, the shots weren't falling for him. You can criticize it. You can say how he can get better, but you're never going to walk away from a game and be like, nah, Devin just gave up. Nah, Devin's just not a good player. Like, these nights happen. He's probably going to drop 40 in the next 3 nights. Like, it's okay. Just take a breath.
Yes.
Good players can impact the game when their best quality is there. The great ones figure out how to make things happen when their best quality might not be there.
Yeah.
All right.
Can we talk about one more topic?
Sure.
I know we all want to get out of here, but I got to tell you, chat, the things I do for you people. I have now been in this outfit 5 games.
It has been 5, hasn't it?
It's been 5. And let me just say, I'm sacrificing any chance of being intimate with my wife again in my life.
TMI!
Because these purple pants are not attractive is what I've been told. So I'm doing it for you people, all right? It will be back on Wednesday in this outfit. You know, it's after midnight, so I can divulge that kind of information.
Is that right? Is
I'll
that
be
how it
back
works?
dressed like this on Wednesday for all of you
Steven's
to see if this
so mad that he's in the 2-shot with you.
Yeah, this is Jared.
Generational curse of sitting next to us.
No, this is tradition. This is tradition. Gerald has to do that as well.
Man.
For a price, I'll switch seats with you. For a price.
Blessings.
All
right.
I sacrifice for you is the point.
To round out the show,
The ultimate team player.
to round out the show, we're going to look at our report cards from tonight. First, we'll start with the Suns report card, which did not look very pretty in this one. We were, I believe,
for 5.
For 5
Yikes.
in tonight's report card. We did not reach 30 assists. We did not attempt 35 threes. We didn't hold our opponent to less than 114. We did not commit 13 or less turnovers, and the big 3 did not combine for 75 plus points. But yet, we got the W, another reason to celebrate. Now let's look at our report card, the PHNX Picks report card. Womp, womp, womp. We all took L's yet again, which means Espo is now down to $60. I only have $13.50. Eric, you've got negative $49.50, and Steven, you have negative $51.67. Can I just say, darn you, Devin Booker.
You had a plus 130 and you lost. Congratulations.
Dude, I love Kevin Durant, but this is the second game in a row.
Yeah,
He's
but
tweeted
you
at me with a
should have
parlay.
known. You
He
should
was
have
averaging
known.
7 boards a game. I had him for 25, 5 assists, 7 rebounds. He had everything but the rebounds. It was a good bet.
Yeah. Well, I had Tyus Jones for first basket. He took the shot
did
and
take
rimmed
it.
out. So
That's tough.
I was
Steven?
just as close as you guys.
How'd you miss your bet?
Well, it was Devin Booker for
Yeah,
me,
Devin
unfortunately.
too.
I hate to
Yeah.
pile on him, man, but hey.
Well, maybe we'll be better on Wednesday. Maybe we won't. I guess you guys will just have to tune in to find out. It's as simple as that. Thank you all for joining us for the postgame show. We appreciate you being here. Listen, I know you probably get 100 million texts and calls over the last 85 days. Don't forget to vote tomorrow because it is the election day, technically today. Yeah. We will not have a show tomorrow, but we will be back on Wednesday. We'll have a pregame show 30 minutes before tip-off, and of course, a postgame show for you. So until we see you on Wednesday, be excellent to one another. Hit that thumbs up button if you're here on YouTube. Rate, review, subscribe wherever you get podcasts. And be sure to follow the show on social at PHNX_Suns. You can also follow me at Lindsay Smith AZ. You can follow Eric at Eric Ruby with a K. You can follow Steven at StevenPG3. And you can follow Espo at Espo. Espo, take us home.
Just be happy I chose purple pants and not short shorts. Otherwise, you'd all be being punished. Ahoy, ahoy.
We all silly like the mayor.